So this will be the kind of last topic we look at right now in terms of conditionals. So we mentioned before that you can use integers or characters or even strings. So let's look at an example of using strings. So I'm just going to switch. I'm going to switch on the color and I'll use a case for red. Okay, and we'll say system.out.println, and we'll say I saw red. We'll break, and then we'll do a default. Just gotta keep things simple. And we'll just say unknown color and break. Okay, so I'm gonna run this code. And I saw red. Perfect. The problem is, well, what if I had typed this? It still says red, but when I run the code, we get unknown color. And that's because I didn't type red exactly right. And even though we've kind of just started dealing with strings and we've seen them a couple of times, this is one of the dangerous things in programming of using literal values, these raw red string. That's because there's so many ways you can mix up and vary the string and still kind of convey the meaning of red. It just may not be exactly what you thought it was. Fortunately, Java does have some tools to kind of help us deal with that. Strings aren't actually the best solution here. So we're going to actually add a new file. So I'm going to right click on conditions and go to new file. I'm going to name this file color.java. Now when I do that, I'll get my little Java icon here and I'll press enter, and I should see this window pop up over here. When you do, you're going to select enum, this third option here. And even if you misclick and you don't see it, it's fine. I'll even click off of it. You can just replace the word class with the word enum. And I'm going to throw in some values here. I'll do red and blue and green. Now notice these aren't strings, but they're not really variables either. These are values. And what an enum does, or an enum, it's an enumeration, an enumerated set of values. And what it says is, if I'm talking about a color can be any value I list here. Right? So I could even throw in, the word banana, and banana would be one of my colors. So Java doesn't stop you from doing something that semantically doesn't make sense, but you can list all the colors you want here. And what I can do back in my app is, instead of string color, I can say, okay, I'm going to use a color, which is the thing I just made. Now when I do that, I need to make sure package conditions good. Now we're in the same package, so it's not going to require an import. And it's going to give me a red squiggle because, red as a string isn't a color, but I can say color.red. And one of my conditions can be color.red. Okay, it doesn't like that. Let's see why. Okay, must be, okay, so it doesn't want the word color. It just wants the word red, which makes sense. Some languages are particular about that, some aren't. Java is a little particular about it. But now if I run this code, we get the I saw red, and there's no way for me to kind of retype or respell it, because if I go in here and if I change how red is spelled, that's fine, but now I get errors over here. It doesn't know what red is with a capital R, because that's not what red is in the enum. So an enum is nice because it restricts you to only those values that are listed in the enum. So if I give this anything that's not one of these values, I could give it red, I could give it blue, I could give it green. If I try to give it anything else, I could even give it the number 4, and let's see if Java's okay with this. All right, so Java doesn't like that. I can't cast or rent the color, so that's a safety feature there. I can't just give it the number 4. I can't give it a string. I have to give it one of the enumerated values. Here I gave it green, but I only have a case for red. So when I run this, it'll tell me, unknown color. Most languages have an enum structure like this. And most of them have a structure that looks a lot like this, that's an enum. I say that because in Java, you can actually do a lot more with an enum than you can in most other languages. We're not going to talk about that right now. We have that planned for a future video, much future video. But for right now, this is kind of a tool where you can kind of say, these are the specific values I want to use. Some other things you can use an enum for are, let's say you're talking about internet traffic. Things come across the internet in the form of packets. 2 of the common formats are TCP and UDP. It is possible that you could say, I want to know what kind of packet this is. So you create an enum that's called packet type. One value is TCP, one value is UDP, and there are no other possible values. So it's a really good and safe way, as opposed to just using strings, especially when you have to keep up with kind of what is that raw literal string value. So the enums are another tool we have that we can use with the switch statement, and we can use them in other statements as well. We can even use them if I wanted to. I could make this, instead of using a switch statement, I could put them in an if. I can just say if color equals color.red, and then we will print that. Put that back. Okay, run the code. Nothing happened because my color was green. I changed it to red. It runs there. So with enums, you can compare with equality, equal. In some languages, you can compare with the less than and greater than. That doesn't work here in Java, but we can use equal, and we can use not equal just fine. So an enum is another tool you can use, and the best approach is to just create a new file. And when you create a new file, remember, it has to be named exactly the way you want to name it. If I made another one, if I here made my packet type, remember I can just pick enum and just start listing them, comma, then a new line, and do the next one, and now I have another enum. So that's another tool you have at your disposal, and that's going to kind of wrap us up on conditions. Starting with the next video, we're going to be working in a new project with a new concept that kind of moves us into the next big programming paradigm. But so far we've talked about sequential code, where code executes one line at a time, and now we've pretty thoroughly covered conditionals, where code can branch and take multiple different paths, not necessarily exactly one line after the other, where there are alternative paths of execution. But that wraps up this kind of section, and we'll move on to the next one, starting with the next video.